Hello everybody, I'm glad to see everybody's back for another video. So if you're like me, you are totally into that ultra-wide life. Ultra-wide monitors, as far as I'm concerned, are the only way to go. You know what they say? Once you go ultra-wide, you never go back. I think I might have actually mixed that up. I don't think that's the exact saying. But anyway, point is, if you're into ultra-wide monitors, you're gonna like today's video. As far as I'm concerned, there is no substitute in today's market for an ultra-wide monitor. The first time I used one, that was it for me. I was hooked. So until we start shoving long, proby looking needles into the backs of our heads to go into the matrix to use computers that way, I'm firmly on Team Ultrawide. Hashtag Team Ultrawide. Hell, I'm printing up shirts. Team Ultrawide. I guess that could get confused for like maybe a trailer thing or it could be like a plus size pants company or something. So maybe I should rethink the shirts. I digress. So when BenQ reached out to me and asked if I wanted to check out their 35-inch ultra-wide monitor, the EX3501R, for you guys that are into the specifics, my response was, duh, does a one-legged duck swim in circles? So why am I fanboying out about ultra-wide monitors? Why do I love ultra-wide so much? If you're into photography or videography, the ultra-wide layout is great for content editing. The wide layout allows you to stretch out that timeline and really see what's going on without feeling all cramped up and claustrophobic. If you're into consuming content, watching movies and whatnot on your computer, then that ultra-wide layout is awesome. Matter of fact, that's what this particular monitor is marketed to, but we'll get more into that in a little bit. That ultra-wide layout allows you to watch movies in that full 21:9 format without having those annoying bars. Also, I feel like the curve really gives you a more immersive experience. Man, I have been really using that word immersive lately. I've got to look up a synonym for that. Hold on, let's see. See, enveloping, hypnotic, mesmerizing, alluring, that's way too sexual. Enticing, surrounding, engrossing, enthralling, dumping, captivating, maybe captivating, I don't know. We can't waste a lot of time going over this, but the point is that curve really kind of wraps the screen around and makes you feel like you're really in there with your content. If you're into gaming, the ultra-wide format can be great. That is, if the game you're playing is formatted to take advantage of that 21:9 format. But if you are, again, that damn word, but it does give you that immersive experience. It really wraps around. It allows you to see more of that map or that world that you're playing the game in. They also just look dope. I'm just saying, I like the way they look. I'm digging the curve. It's a personal opinion, but I dig them. So let's get into the details on this bad boy. Like I said, the model number on this one is the EX3501R from BenQ. This is a 35-inch LED screen that has a resolution of 3440 by 1440. The resolution on ultrawides gets a little wonky because the fact they're longer than they are tall, the ratio gets off. So it's a little different than your standard 16:9. It's not quite at 4K resolution, but firmly above 1080. I've got two other monitors from LG that are the exact same resolution, and never once in the over 2 years of using them have I ever thought, man, I really wish these things were sharper. They're more than sharp and clear enough for me and my day-to-day stuff, emails, typing stuff, editing content, very crispy and clear. No complaints with the resolution. And you did hear me right, this is a LED or VA panel. It is not an IPS panel, so I know some of you are immediately going to be a little put off by that, but it has a great contrast ratio. It has really deep blacks, great color representation. Overall, no issues at all with the picture quality or viewing, so don't be afraid that this is not an IPS panel. I have other IPS panels, and in comparison to these are every bit as bright and colorful. I don't notice any problems with the colors, saturation or brightness being weird in the corners. You got good uniform color and saturation and brightness from corner to corner. Can't really see anything bad with the panel itself. This panel offers 2500:1 contrast ratio, displays 16.7 million colors, covers 100% of the RGB color space, which is important for you guys that are into content editing and creation. It is sporting a 100 Hz refresh rate with a 4 millisecond response time. It does have AMD FreeSync. Sorry, no G-Sync on this one, guys, which is really more than enough to give you nice, smooth gameplay, so you don't have to worry about tearing or choppy playback or anything like that. Now, it should be said, in a world of 144 and 240 Hz monitors with 1 second response times, or 1 millisecond response time, this thing's not near the top of the heap. I mean, there are definitely monitors out there that if you're a hardcore gamer, higher specs. But the specs on this thing are going to be more than enough for the vast majority of people that are gaming on this thing. This is also an HDR display, so you're going to get that nice enhanced brightness and contrast that really makes the images on this baby pop. It has brightness intelligence tech, which will adjust the display settings to your environment by using the ambient light sensor on this monitor. It's supposed to prevent eye strain while helping to maximize image quality. They've also stuck some technology in this monitor called Opt Clarity, I think is how you say that. Basically some wizardry where they take the HDR and the brightness intelligence and they do some really fancy smart people algorithm crap to provide optimal image quality no matter what your ambient surroundings are in the room. So a side note on all the brightness stuff and the HDR and all of these cool little, if you're buying this thing for consuming media and stuff like that and playing video games, which is what they're kind of marketing this particular monitor toward, all that stuff is fantastic and it's awesome. If you're like me and you're using it to edit content, more than likely you're turning all that stuff off because you're going to be calibrating your monitor. So when you're doing color grading on photos or on video, you know, your colors are all accurate and good. And if you calibrate your monitor with your brightness and your colors, you're not going to want the monitor playing around and adjusting colors and warming stuff up and cooling stuff off. So for content creation, all that stuff's kind of, you're going to turn it off, but for consuming content, it's fantastic. This display has a panoramic 1800R curvature, which is what I prefer. The curve is a little more pronounced than some curved displays out there. It's going to give you that more immersive feeling. Also, for me, when I'm working on my monitor, the curve allows me to see things better. When you're dealing with an ultra-wide monitor, and I've talked about this in a previous ultra-wide review, they're wide. And if you're sitting in the middle of it and you're looking out to the far corner, I'm getting older, my eyes aren't as good. Stuff can be kind of hard to see way out there. But because of the curve, it's keeping those corners more equidistant from your face, so they're a little closer, so it's easier to see. In my opinion, it's easier to work. These sharp curves on the monitors, the only downside I can see is if you are into graphic design or you're using CAD or any of these kind of programs. I have heard some guys in that field say they're not big fans of the curve because it can distort straight lines, and if you're really lining stuff up, if you're an architect or something like that, that's probably not going to be good for you. For me though, I don't have any problems with it. I think it's awesome. It has some super skinny bezels, which adds to the sleek and great overall appearance of this monitor. It also really helps if you're like me and you have a multi-monitor setup. Keeps them looking as close to that one continuous screen as you can get. Nothing messes up that look than some big old fat chunky bezels. The finish on the screen is more on the matte or flat side. It's not a super shiny finish, which is another thing that I really personally prefer in monitors because the really ultra shiny screens really have a lot of glare, and we all hate glare, let's be honest. It has a really nicely designed stand with a wire management hole, and it has kind of a shiny gunmetal finish. The stand has -5 to 15 degrees of tilt, which overall, it's a fair amount of tilt. It's enough for most people, I would say. And 60 millimeters or 2.3 inches of vertical adjustment. The menu system and speakers are nothing to write home about. It's pretty standard. The menu system is easy enough. It's not overly convoluted or confusing. It's easy enough to navigate. And the speakers are pretty much like all speakers and monitors. All right, so let's flip this guy around and let's look at the connections we got on this guy. We have 2 HDMI 2.0s, 1 DisplayPort, 2 USB 3.0, 1 USB-C, and 1 headphone jack. Overall, pretty happy with the connection package this one has. I like the fact that you can use the USB-C port on this one to hook up a laptop, and it is going to power the laptop at the same time. Also, they give you plenty of USB 3.0s. It's kind of a hub, so you can hook a keyboard into this monitor and your mouse into this monitor, and then when you hook your laptop in, everything's going to function all as one, which is nice. Would have liked to have seen some more USB-Cs though. It does have one and it charges, which is fantastic, but in a world where everything is really starting to go more toward USB-C, it would have been nice if it would have been a little more forward thinking and had maybe a couple USB-Cs to support more of that, or maybe some Thunderbolts. I'm an Apple guy. My other monitors have daisy chainable Thunderbolt connections, which is really nice because then I can daisy chain the monitors. I don't have to eat up a bunch of ports on my computer. So maybe throwing a Thunderbolt port in there would have been nice. But I'm a Mac guy and that's just kind of nitpicking. Overall, I think it's got good connection options. Now let's touch on a few negatives, things that I'm not real crazy about. I always like to be honest with you guys and let you know fully what you're getting yourself into with my honest opinion. And there are some negatives to these guys. First off, it is Visa compatible if you want to wall mount this guy or put it on a stand, which is awesome, but you can't do it out of the box. It requires an external additional bracket, which in and of itself isn't a huge problem if they included that bracket, but they don't. It's an extra cost. I wish they would have just thrown the adapter in, so for people who wanted to wall mount it, it wasn't an additional expense. Next, the power brick on this thing is enormous. And don't get me wrong, I know why they did this. It's because they wanted to be able to supply enough power to run the monitor and still be able to hook a laptop up and charge through USB-C. So I applaud them for doing that because I love being able to do that. But for wire management purposes, that brick is a nightmare. It is a monster. So if you're wall mounting this thing and you're trying to like hide this, it's big. So, you know, I understand why they did it, so I don't want to knock them too much, but it's just something to be aware of. It does only have 300 nits of brightness, which isn't as high as a lot of HDR monitors. Again, this is a minor nitpick. Most people probably won't ever notice or need to know, but just something to be aware of. Other than those few small gripes though, overall I think this is a really great monitor. While its specs are not absolutely at the top of the heap in comparison to other monitors, it does everything well enough to be a great all-arounder. It's fast enough for most gamers. The color accuracy is great, so for content creators, it's awesome. It has a great ultra-wide format and resolution for productivity, content creation, gaming, media consumption. It's just a good all-around monitor that can really do a lot of different things well. So that's it for this one, guys. As always, I will put links down below, so if you're interested in purchasing one of these guys, you know where to find it. I hope you enjoyed the video and it had some good info for you. If you did enjoy it and it was helpful, feel free to mash that like button. You know, is mash something we only say here in the South? I might have talked about this before, but I feel like mash is a Southern thing. Like mash that button. That's something we say in the South. I don't think in other places they use mash in that term. They like mash potatoes, but I don't think they mash a button. I think that's definitely a Southern thing. Here I go, off on another tangent. Stay on track, Jeremy, stay on track. If you're not a subscriber, please consider doing so. We'd love to have you on board. I hope everybody is having a fantastic week, and we will see you in the next video.